UK was the first country in the world to have long-term targets. So 10 years ago, we had the Climate Change Act, 2008, and that set an 80% reduction in emissions by 2050. So where we are today is we're already at about 40% reduction in emissions compared to 1990. But the interesting statistic is that at the same time we've grown almost 70%. So we've decoupled from, we've both decarbonised and grown. And sort of the recent story is a really interesting one because coal has come out of our mix very, very quickly. We had a day last year, a famous day, when we had zero coal in our electricity generation for the first time since 1882. And it was down from 40% 5 years earlier. So it's a remarkable sort of end of one industrial revolution and start of the next one. And the way we've done that, we've obviously got secure supplies of gas. The interconnectors with the EU are working very well. We've got nuclear. But the really exciting story has been offshore wind. So we've become the biggest offshore wind producer in the world, in the UK, in a very short space of time. And that has come about through extraordinary innovations in the industry and we think smart regulatory frameworks, investment from all over the world, including the United Arab Emirates where we are today. And the price at the auction has halved in 2 years. So it's an incredibly dynamic energy market at the moment. And the UK, through our clean growth strategy and our industrial strategy, trying to be at the vanguard of that transformation. It's moving into electricity, into transportation, into the economy-wide sort of cleaner system that we want to create. Well, it began with our own need for energy security. We want secure supply at good prices and decarbonised. So we took some risks to invest in sort of a nascent market. We thought really carefully about the regulatory structure. We've got a really good auction system. There's a small grant that we put forward because offshore wind costs a lot up front and then becomes very, very low marginal cost as you operate. So we help a bit at the beginning. And it's been a very attractive market for investors from all over the world. The great thing also about that story for the UK is the way that it's regenerating areas like Hull, Newcastle, Glasgow. This is where the supply chain is more than 50% of the whole industry is drawing from the UK. So it's a new business and it's driven by cost. The offshore wind price came in lower than new gas and nuclear. The exciting thing about combining that with energy efficiency measures in businesses and households is that consumer bills are coming down at the same time. So this isn't kind of greening the economy but at great cost. It's actually just an economically sensible thing to be doing now. The dramatic reductions in cost in the last auction offshore wind means that we're approaching a much, much smaller subsidy all the time. And indeed, the Minister for Climate and Industry, Claire Perry, recently opened a solar farm that was subsidy-free, so across solar and wind. And we're hearing that at this international conference. Across the world, we're getting to cost parity quickly or already there. Well, we've got the interconnectors with the mainland, which work really well. We're going to still be very big part of Europe and the European energy market after leaving the EU. So, yeah, I think the aim, energy demand is continuing to go up. The aim at the moment is to have the most efficient, effective market to secure supply and keep prices affordable. So, it's a pretty sort of positive picture, but we can't be complacent. There's big plans. There's another 15 gigawatts either permitted or under construction. So just pushing on really and taking advantage of the conditions that we've faced. We have committed to see the end of the sale of combustion engine cars by 2040. And the Prime Minister has announced a major global summit that will host this year in autumn 2018, Zero Emissions Vehicles Summit. And the idea there is just such a huge momentum now around electrifying transportation. We've got this incredibly tight imperative around carbon, climate change. We've got to move fast. but it requires charging stations, huge changes in infrastructure, not just of individual vehicles, autonomous vehicles, but also public transport. So we've got to do all that now. If we don't change the infrastructure, the public infrastructure and private infrastructure for transport now and in the next 10 years, then we'll really struggle to meet the decarbonisation plans for the longer term. So that should be a really exciting event. A lot of interest, I think, from around the world to try and work out, what are the technical solutions and what are the network solutions. And this electrification agenda is going across the economy. It's also a digitalisation agenda, it's an innovation agenda. So very exciting.